Have you ever felt this before? You can envision a life more extraordinary than anyone around you. You have dreams, you have ideas, and there are even moments when it feels like you're touching the future. But then everything slips away within days, hours, sometimes even minutes. You fall back into old habits, exhaustion, procrastination, and then you blame yourself. I'm just lazy. But what if I told you that what you call laziness doesn't actually exist? Carl Jung, one of the greatest thinkers on the human psyche, would never call you lazy. He would call you someone controlled by their own shadow. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. This isn't just a nice quote. It's a wake-up call for millions of smart, capable individuals who feel stuck in an invisible loop they can't escape. You're not lacking information. You're not lacking motivation. You're not lacking goals. What you're lacking is an honest conversation with the part of your mind you've never dared to face. That part which tightens up every time you try to change. That part that makes you lazy right when you need to act. That part that fears success just as much as it fears failure. Carl Jung called it the shadow. Unlike typical self-help videos that yell at you to just do it, stop making excuses or be more disciplined, this video won't try to fix you. Instead, I want to help you see the thing you've been avoiding your whole life. A primal instinct within you quietly working like a hidden screenwriter, writing out your procrastination, self-sabotage, quitting, and making you believe I'm a failure. But that's not who you are. You're just being directed by another character inside your psyche, a part of you that since childhood you were taught to suppress, forget, or bury. You don't need more motivation. You need to face your shadow. This video is a map, but not a map to success. It's a map into uncharted territory within your own psyche. There, you won't find cheerleading, you'll find the truth. That every time you procrastinate, your mind is trying to protect you from a fear you haven't yet recognized. That your so-called laziness is your shadow's way of keeping you safe inside a comfort zone that has long since rotted. That if you truly want to change, you must understand your fears like an old friend, not like an enemy. And to do that, you'll need more than knowledge. You'll need the courage to listen to what your shadow has to say. In the next section, I'll show you how the shadow changes shape from exhaustion to distraction to a sense of meaninglessness. Why the more intelligent and ambitious you are, the heavier the shadow feels. And most importantly, how you can begin a dialogue with your shadow tonight in the very room you're sitting in. But remember, this video is not for those looking for a quick fix. It's for those who are exhausted by the cycle of trying and collapsing and who are ready for transformation at the root level deep within the unconscious. So if you've ever asked, why do I know I have potential yet still can't break through? Why does the harder I try, the more drained I feel? Why does something invisible seem to pull me back every time I try to change? Then this is your section. Keep going. The next part will take you even deeper. You'll no longer call it laziness. You'll call it by its real name, the battle between light and shadow within yourself. Have you ever sat in a quiet room laptop, open coffee by your side, a clear plan in place, and yet still couldn't begin? You stare at the screen, heart racing, but mind numb. A small voice inside says, "Not now, I'm not ready." You are not alone. Carl Jung wouldn't call you lazy. He would call it a manifestation of the shadow. The shadow isn't some separate entity or vague fear. It's the collection of parts of yourself that were once rejected, suppressed, shamed, laughed at, or deemed not allowed to exist. The shadow was born during moments when you were too young to understand what was happening, but sensitive enough to feel, this part of me isn't safe if others see it. Since then, the shadow lives beneath the surface, quiet yet sharp, appearing every time you try to step outside your comfort zone. The shadow isn't laziness, it's your unconscious defense system. A 32-year-old woman in marketing came to her therapist feeling like a failure because she couldn't start writing the book she dreamed about for 5 years. She didn't understand why, but every time she opened Word, she felt dizzy. Her heart pounded. She'd shut the laptop and scroll Instagram for hours, riddled with guilt. Upon deeper work, the therapist unearthed a forgotten memory. At age 9, she read her short story aloud in class and was publicly criticized by the teacher. The class laughed. Her shadow never forgot the shame. Now, whenever she wants to write, her shadow thinks she's about to be hurt again and sends signals to avoid. Not because she's weak, but because her unconscious is still trying to protect her from that old pain. Personal and collective shadows. The unseen gatekeepers of action. Jung didn't only speak of personal shadows, He also described collective shadows, the repressed parts of a culture, a community, or even a nation. Personal shadow. I don't dare say this. I'm afraid of rejection. Collective shadow, people like me shouldn't do this. Society will laugh. For example, a black man born in poverty may have been taught early on that people like us don't get opportunities. Success is for others. His shadow is not just personal fear. It's the inherited darkness of a community etched into his psyche. That shadow can override logic. It doesn't let people dream, let alone act. Action is the battlefield between ego and shadow. You're not lacking knowledge. You've read the books, tried bullet journaling, morning routines, time tracking apps. What you lack is a serious conversation with the part of you pulling the other way. And this is where most people fail. They try to take action without knowing what they're fighting, like trying to swim to shore while tying a stone to your ankle thinking, this will make me stronger. You can't overcome the shadow with discipline alone. You reveal the shadow through non-judgmental observation. Real-life example, when the shadow takes over. Imagine a 40-year-old man with a tech startup idea. He's worked for 12 years at a large corporation, always feeling he didn't belong. He saved money, studied hard, networked with mentors. Then, when it's time to quit and start, he freezes. He postpones his resignation over and over. Every time he's about to send the email, his stomach knots, palms sweat. His shadow isn't against startups, it's protecting the boy who was scolded by his father for taking risks. His fear of failure isn't about loss, it's about shame, worthlessness, abandonment. The shadow isn't a monster, it's a gatekeeper still using outdated methods to keep you safe, even if they no longer apply. From insight to practice, you must name your own shadow. You cannot transform by merely consuming knowledge. You must engage your shadow in dialogue. Ask yourself, each time I procrastinate, what am I afraid will happen? If I succeed, what will change in my life? And what might I lose? Am I afraid of becoming a version of myself I was never allowed to be? Write it out. Don't judge. Don't embellish. The shadow fears light but only dissolves when seen. Jung once said the greatest loneliness is not a lack of people, but the absence of being seen for who you truly are. If this resonates with you, write in the comments. What's the name of your shadow? What does it say whenever you're about to do something important? What small action will you take today to begin your dialogue with it? Read others' comments. Leave a word of encouragement. We are not alone in this journey through darkness. You've begun to see how the shadow shapes your life. But insight isn't enough. In the next part, I'll share the exact steps Jung used with his patients so that day by day you can weaken the shadow without having to fight it. Step 1, name your shadow. Step 2, do small daily actions that the shadow can't stop. And there are 3 more steps, simple, profound, and effective. Let's keep going, because the shadow doesn't dissolve through logic. It dissolves through repeated, honest attention. You've now seen how the shadow operates a deep, unconscious mechanism that protects us every time we're about to step out of our comfort zone. But sometimes that resistance doesn't come as a panic attack or a clear fear. It arrives through distraction. The inner saboteur. Jung called it a cluster of psychic energy that functions like an independent personality. In modern symbolic language, we know it as the inner saboteur. It doesn't shout. It doesn't block you directly. It whispers, "You deserve a little break. This TikTok video is just 30 seconds. Check the email later. Let's breathe first." It's extremely convincing because it speaks in your own inner voice, blending logic, needs, and self-compassion. 3. Typical patterns of shadow and saboteur. 1. Procrastination. Fear disguised as logical reasoning. You're not afraid to write. You're afraid it won't be good. You're not afraid to start a business. You're afraid of seeing yourself fail. Procrastination is the subconscious way of protecting you from a feared negative outcome, choosing doing nothing as a form of safety. If I don't start, I can't fail. If I don't decide, I can't be wrong. But what you're really losing isn't time. It's trust in yourself. Every time you procrastinate, you're telling the shadow you're right. I'm not ready. 2. Dopamine addiction. Splintering your mind into thousands of pieces. In an era of TikTok reels and constant notifications, the shadow and saboteur no longer need brute force. They just need to keep you from focusing. Every time you're about to do something important, the shadow whispers, "Just scroll for 5 minutes." But dopamine doesn't come alone. It brings emptiness afterward. You return to your unfinished task, mind scattered, energy drained. Modern distraction isn't accidental. It's a tool of the shadow. 3. Goal avoidance, when you know what you want but don't dare face it. Avoidance isn't the same as procrastination. It's turning away from what you deeply long for. Example, a woman keeps saying she wants to teach meditation, but she continually signs up for new courses. I need to learn more first. Or a man who knows he needs to end a toxic relationship but says it's not the right time yet. Avoidance is a subtle form of the shadow keeping you safe by sending you in circles. Why is the saboteur so strong? The saboteur is a wounded child who was never protected. It learned to protect itself through defense avoidance, lying, and delay. It's not evil, it's just deeply lonely. And now as you're about to enter something new, it gets reactivated like a spiritual fever. You feel anxious, unmotivated, self-critical, but in truth, you're standing at the gate guarded by the saboteur who holds the key to the next chapter of your individuation journey. If you're beginning to recognize I have a saboteur like that too, share in the comments. What does it say to you? How does it usually stop you? What small action can you take today to move past it? Write it, share it, respond to others. Because in everyone's darkness, there's a point of light when we shine it together. Now you've seen how the shadow and saboteur dance a hidden choreography that holds you back. In the next part, I'll share 5 steps to transform the shadow into an ally based on Jungian psychoanalysis. How to design small, safe actions that the saboteur won't resist but are real enough to shift you. And most importantly, how to build an evening ritual to acknowledge the shadow instead of being ruled by it. You don't need a huge push. You need one small step in the right direction, repeated with sincerity. We'll take that step together. In the next part. Are you ready? In the previous section, you saw that the shadow and the saboteur are not your enemies. They are forgotten fragments within your psyche, merely trying to keep you safe. But when left unrecognized, the shadow repeats a dangerous cycle, quietly yet powerfully. Jung called this the cycle of the unconscious ruling over the conscious. Today we'll illuminate each link in the shadow loop so you can break free from it deliberately. The shadow loop. Why do you keep ending up at the starting point? Inspiration awakens. You watch an inspiring video. You wake up with a big idea. You plan to write a book, go to the gym, or change your job. Shadow feels threatened, inner alarm. As soon as you dare to be different, the unconscious sets off a silent alarm. The shadow whispers, stop. Too risky, too unfamiliar. You may not hear this clearly, but you suddenly lose motivation in a mysterious way. Disguised behavior, terrific behavior. You start cleaning the house, scrolling online, watching motivation videos. The mind invents reasonable-sounding excuses to postpone. I need rest. I need to learn more first. It's not the right time yet. Guilt and disillusionment. You realize you're procrastinating. Guilt creeps in. You think I failed again. The shadow wins, and now plays the role of inner judge, making you dislike yourself. Hopeful reset. You look for a new goal, a new app, a new notebook. The cycle restarts subtly, endlessly, like fate. When the shadow starts taking over the mind, which phase are you in? Stage 1, nameless fear. You haven't clearly seen the shadow. You just feel something is holding me back. This is when the shadow hides best. Stage 2, reason swap. The shadow changes its voice. I'm not good enough. I need more time. Maybe I don't really want this. You think it's your logic, but you're being manipulated. Stage 3, over inspiration. You try to push your energy up with motivational videos, but this only strengthens the shadow. The more you try, the harder you fall. Stage 4, confusion and self-blame. You revert to old habits. Criticize yourself. Compare with others. The shadow no longer needs to attack. You do it for it. Stage 5, silence. In reboot, you forget the failure. You promise to start something new, but the loop quietly waits to repeat itself. Why understanding the loop is the first step to escape. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. We often try to change surface behaviors, not realizing the internal map of the mind is running in loops. The shadow doesn't disappear when ignored. It only weakens when observed with the light of honesty. So how do we break the loop? In the next section, we'll dive into 5 steps to transform the shadow. Name the shadow. Turn the invisible into a real character in your psychological life. Take safe yet authentic actions. Avoid triggering intense resistance. Note the shadow's reactions daily, so it no longer hides in secrecy. Lead the saboteur into dialogue, not battle, like a neglected inner child. Build a witnessing community where you don't have to be strong alone. Have you recognized how often you've repeated this shadow loop? Which time was the strongest? Which time cost you the most? And this time, what do you want to be different? Share your reflection in the comments. Read others' responses. Reply to someone. One honest acknowledgement, however small, can shatter the darkness in another's heart. We've now seen the full map of the shadow loop. In the next part, you'll get step-by-step guidance to avoid falling back into the loop. Learn how to recognize when the shadow becomes more subtle, and how to use the shadow as a creative power source, not a blockade. You don't have to be strong yet. You just need to be honest, consistently. And together we'll take the first step in the next section. See you there. Entering the world of inner dialogue, 5 steps to transform the shadow into an ally. We've identified the patterns of the shadow. Now it's time to take action, not through force or repression, but through deep dialogue between the conscious and the unconscious. Jung never encouraged suppressing the shadow. He didn't see it as a monster to defeat, but rather as a lost child of the soul always waiting to be heard. Step 1, name your shadow. I see you now. Start by writing down all the moments you procrastinate, get irrationally angry, avoid taking action, or feel not good enough. Then ask, who is speaking right now? What's the real reason behind this behavior? Where have I heard this voice in the past? The shadow loses its grip once it is seen. Naming it is the first step in breaking the power of the invisible. Step 2, take tiny actions the shadow can't resist. Don't start with grand goals. Write a paragraph instead of writing a whole book. Call one person instead of building a network. Jog for 5 minutes instead of training for a month. Each small step sends a signal to the shadow. We're safe now. You don't need to defeat the shadow. You need to prove that you're no longer the hurt child of the past. Step 3, listen through active imagination. Jung's technique to converse with the shadow. Jung practiced a method called active imagination, a bridge between the external world and the inner dreamscape. How to do it? Sit still, breathe deeply. Close your eyes and imagine yourself in a room your shadow enters. Don't direct, don't script, just observe. Begin a dialogue. Why have you come? What are you trying to protect inside me? What are you most afraid of? This isn't for quick fixes. It's a way to explore the unconscious, to seek truth, not solutions. Step 4, combine with dream work and journaling to uncover what your waking mind cannot see. Jung believed dreams were doors to the shadow. Every strange dream, every odd symbol is a message from deep within. Suggestion: record dreams each morning, even just a few words. Ask questions like, what does that character symbolize? What emotion lingered after I woke up? Then journal freely, no edits, no judgment. Let words flow from your inner storyteller, not logic but intuition. Dreams and journaling are the two hands of active imagination, night symbols, and day dialogue. Step 5, share a truth. Connection is how you reclaim power. You don't have to reveal everything. Just speak one truth you've hidden. It could be a habit you're trying to break, a truth about your shadow you just discovered, a small, brave step you took today. When you write it in a comment or share with a safe community, something strange happens. Shame transforms into courage. Isolation turns into connection. The shadow no longer fills the entire room because light has entered. Community is the soul's healing ground. Carl Jung once said, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. And that choice becomes easier when you're not alone. Share in the comments. How have you spoken with your shadow? What small action did you choose today? Who do you want to send this message to? Reply to someone. Empathize with someone. This journey begins inward, but healing happens in connection. In the final part, we'll go even deeper. How do you keep going when motivation fades? How do you know you're truly transforming, not just repeating old cycles in new forms? How do you use the shadow as creative fuel, not just a barrier? You've come a long way, but the best part is only just beginning. Entering the shadow with light. Writing a shadow journal. It's time to care for the hidden friend lurking in the dark corners of your mind. Why write a shadow journal? Because the shadow doesn't exist under spotlights. It lives in the thin cracks of our inner world where we refuse to look. And writing is the act that breaks down those defenses. When you write, you create space between your behavior and your emotions. You not only see what you do, but feel why you do it. You show your shadow that you're no longer fighting, it's safe to speak. How to write a shadow journal. Step by step. 1. Write with the principle no judgment, just witnessing. No analysis, no comparison. Just note down moments you procrastinated or avoided something. Times when you felt tired for no reason, unmotivated. Thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I'm afraid to fail, people will judge me. Write as if you're speaking to a friend who's been silent for too long. 2. Ask open-ended questions. After writing about an event or emotion, ask, if I allowed myself to succeed at this, what would happen? If I succeed, what would actually change in my life? This isn't a logical question. It's a door into the subconscious. Who would start expecting things from you if you succeed? Do you fear losing your old self, the version others are familiar with? Does success feel lonely, full of responsibility, threatening your safety? 3. Notice your shadow's response. Your shadow may reply through your first emotional reaction: panic, discomfort, sadness. Write about it. What emotion arose? What does your shadow seem to be protecting by reacting that way? Where do you feel like retreating to? This builds a dialogue. You're not speaking to your shadow, you're listening to it. Core psychology transformation happens in small steps. Darkness doesn't disappear, it is transmuted. The shadow doesn't self-destruct. The more you fight it, the stronger it becomes. So instead of resisting, invite it into the light step by step. Begin by writing to hear what it's trying to say. Ask gateway questions to reveal fears that aren't yet clear. Then take small, intentional steps, the kind of action your shadow can't block. Real example: from laziness to real action. Anna, 29, loved drawing illustrations but never posted on Instagram. For a long time, she felt lazy, unfinished projects, no public sharing. She tried waking up at 5 a.m. to draw, felt exhausted, and gave up. She blamed herself for lacking willpower. Once she started shadow journaling, she remembered being humiliated in art class. Your drawing lacks emotion. When she asked herself, if I allowed myself to succeed, she broke into tears. She realized she feared being misunderstood, feared that success would bring family pressure. She wrote, my shadow says, if you succeed, they'll keep expecting more and then you'll fail. She started with tiny steps. Draw one mini piece each morning, but keep it offline. No big expectations, just affirm, today I drew. She wrote how she felt regretful if she skipped uncomfortable when someone asked and tempted to quit out of fear of disappointment. Challenges still came, but day by day she discovered the shadow softened, it didn't resist as hard. Tiny actions brought light to deeper layers. Drawing became a habit, not something to avoid anymore. You're walking your own journey, but you're not alone. Please share, what name would you give your shadow? What is the question, what would happen if I succeeded? Bring up for you. What did journaling help you discover? A new insight? A long-forgotten fear? Write in the comments. Read someone else's share and send them a heart, a kind word. That small act helps you stay steady and might help someone else move forward too. You've written, you've asked, you've taken one step. In the next section, I'll show you signs you're truly evolving, not just trying hard. I'll guide you on how to sustain this journey, not with constant motivation, but with honest check-ins. And you'll see the more the shadow is heard, the less control it has. When the shadow becomes a companion, perhaps you've realized this, the shadow within you was never the enemy. It is fear given the shape of memory, a warning born from a wound, a part of you forgotten but never gone. Jung once wrote, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. You don't have to become superhuman. You only need the courage to do what most people never dare, to look inward. You did something extraordinary. You stayed until the end. Most people quit halfway through the video, halfway through the journey, halfway through the dream. But you are different. You dared to recognize your shadow, listen to invisible fears, take action however small to break the cycle. And perhaps you're still afraid. But now you know you are no longer alone. Your shadow is now a mirror, not a chain. If you keep walking this path, you'll begin to see your procrastination wasn't laziness, it was past pain. Your self-doubt wasn't incompetence, it was judgment you once received. And at its core, the shadow never wanted you to fail, it just feared you'd be hurt again. Now you know how to answer it, not with force, but with the light of awareness. Not with, I'll try harder, but with, now I understand why I stopped. You are rewriting your story with your own hand. You might not see massive results yet, but what you're doing day by day is what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming your true self, whole, multidimensional, and no longer shackled to a false ego. You are doing what society avoids facing instead of fleeing. You are becoming the person with a shadow, not perfect, but profound. Not fake positive, but honest with both light and dark. Want to keep going? Let's walk this path together. If you found value in this journey, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and continue your Jungian path with us weekly. Leave a comment and share. What name would you give your shadow? What's one small action you took this week? What's something you once called laziness, but now understand was fear? Read other comments. Send encouragement. This isn't just a video, it's a community waking up. You don't need to become anyone else. You only need to be real enough to be fully yourself. The Jungian journey isn't for the masses. It's not loud, it's not fast, but for those who walk it to the end, it offers what no cheap motivation ever can: true transformation. If you're still here, you are one of the few. Thank you for walking this path with me. This video ends, but the journey is just beginning.